You've been swimming the same 100-meter times for months now. Training more laps is not going to move the clock. Now let me tell you something, that the problem in general is not your fitness, but is the 5 specific technical things that are costing you seconds every single length. Now in this video, you'll learn the exact 5 changes that will drop you 5 seconds off your 100 meters. Hi, I'm Alexandru Coci. I'm a former Olympic swimmer. I've coached thousands of adult swimmers going through this exact plateau. Step number 3 is where most swimmers leave 2 seconds on the table and literally it takes 5 minutes to fix. So step number 1 is fix your streamline of each wall. Your walls are actually bleeding time. Every single one. Now look at this and watch what most adult swimmers do whenever they push off. Hands apart, head slightly lifted, hips dropping, and that's not the streamline. That's basically a break. Now this happens because you tend to focus on the turn itself. Either that is a flip turn or a touch turn, or actually the contact of you touching the wall. And the second we push off, then the body relaxes. Now that's a complete normal reaction for you to think that way, but that's a completely wrong one. So the push off is where you actually get the most amount of speed in the whole race or into your swimming, not necessarily the turn itself. Now obviously you can lose a lot of seconds by having a poor turn, but most of the swimmers actually kills it instantly with a loose body position right after maybe they've done a good turn. Now this is basically like floating a car and then the moment after you're dragging your foot on the brake at the same moment. All that force is cancelled out right away, and the fix here is actually simple. So basically stack your hands one on top of each other. Biceps should be squeezed at your ears, core should be engaged, glutes should be tight, and toes should be pointed. And you need to hold that shape. Every meter of the wall, you're trying to hold it. Now, before you get into the pool, practice this on land first. So stand up, feet together, arms overhead. Stack your palm together. Now press your biceps against your ears and try to feel every gap close between your arms, through your torso and down to your feet. Now hold this position for about 5 seconds. So squeeze harder than it feels necessary, because that tension is actually the streamline actually should feel like. Now in the water, you're going to be a bit more relaxed in a streamline than you are on land, because most swimmers think they're holding the same in the water, but sometimes they're not. Now on land, this is exactly how tight it needs to be. Now in the water, you do 8 push-offs, no kicking at all. All you have to do is just glide and measure how far you travel before you actually start sinking. If you're dropping after 2 meters, that means your body position is leaking somewhere and you need to review that. The goal here is to go at least 4 meters, clear glide with 1 push. Swimmers who can clean their streamline typically gain about 1 to 1.5 seconds per each 100 meters. So if fixing those walls actually felt a quick fix, wait until you see what's happening right after each push-off. Step number 2, underwater dolphin kicks. You're faster underwater than you are on the surface. And that's not my opinion, it's literally physics and a lot of science behind. So less drag, no breathing disruptions, no weight breaking on your head. But the most swimmers that actually work with, they either do 1 or 2 kicks and they pop straight up to the surface, or they do none. Now watch what that looks like. 1 little flutter kick, maybe 2 like I said. Then the head breaks into the surface. Then the fast phase is actually completely over. Because nobody actually teaches adult swimmers the underwater phase, because they think it's not important. So some of the coaches actually cover the turn, maybe the push off, and then they say swim basically. But the part where you're actually moving the fastest actually gets skipped entirely. Now this is basically like launching a rocket and cutting the engine 3 seconds after the liftoff. The push-off is actually the launch itself and the dolphin kicks are actually the engine. So you're basically cutting the engine way too early. Now here is what I would like you to do, is to do 3 to 5 strong dolphin kicks off every wall before you actually get to the surface. But here, the kicks has to start from your chest and not from your knees. If you can't swim butterfly, you're gonna have to learn how to do the dolphin kick first. So the movement is actually a full body wave. The chest forward, hips will follow, and then the legs will whip last. Your legs are at the end of the chain, not the start of it. Now try this on land first. Stand up, slowly wave your chest forward and let your hips rock back and let your legs follow. Do this for about 10 times, really slow. Now do you feel how the movement actually originates from your chest? And that's the wave, just horizontal, obviously in the water. And this is exactly what an efficient dolphin kick actually feels like in the water. Now in the pool, you push off in a streamline, you glide, like I said, anywhere from 2 to 4 meters. Then you start doing your 3 to 5 dolphin kicks and you count out loud in your head. Then you need to break the surface. Rest for 20 seconds. Do about 10 reps just like this. And make sure you pay attention to whether you feel the propulsion or it's just a movement up and down. So propulsion actually means that the wave is actually running correctly and it moves you forward. A movement just up and down is not going to move you anywhere. So swimmers who can add consistent underwater kick report gaining anywhere from 1 to 1.5 seconds per each wall. Over 100 meters, that adds up fast. The walls are faster, your underwater is carrying you further. Now here's the one that surprises almost everyone that I coached. Step number 3, the stroke rate. So your arms are moving way too slowly. I know, you've probably been told that long, smooth strokes equal efficiency. And that's true at lower intensities. But watch what a slow turnover actually looks in 100 meters. Hand enters, long pause at the front, slow pull, recovery slowly, and then you repeat. It looks controlled, and it looks also slow. And this happens because the long stroke ideas gets applied everywhere without any context. So for easy laps, that's totally fine. But if you want to swim 100 meters at effort, then you need to move your arms a bit faster. Now the most adult swimmers that I work with and I do video analysis with, they're sitting anywhere between 35 and maybe 45, or some of them to 50, but not more than that. Now that gap is actually costing you serious time. Now think of it actually more like sprinting. Now long and slow strokes might feel powerful, but they do not win the 100 meters. Short, quick, explosive steps, and that's exactly what the speed is. Now, same physics apply in the water, so you're not doing anything different that you would do whenever you're doing long and slow. The fix here is actually the pause. That tiny pause at the front is actually your stroke, and then the moment that your hand enters in the water before it actually starts pulling. Basically, you need to eliminate it. Hand enters in the water and catch starts right immediately. Quick in, quick through, and quick out. On land, stand up and do slow freestyle arm motion. Feel the rhythm? Now, try to speed that up on the same path, same mechanics, just a bit faster. Now notice you can actually increase the rate without losing movement pattern once the muscle memory is actually there. And that's exactly what you're trying to build. Now in the water, swim about 425 meters. Count your strokes on every single one. Now try to add 2 strokes per length of each rep. Time every single one. Now rep 3 is almost the fastest, because maybe the first 2 you're actually trying to build the stroke rate, you get to a good stroke rate on the rep 3, and maybe the 4th one you're actually rushing a bit too much. So you need to find that specific zone and that specific sweet spot. And that actually is your target zone. I'm working right now with a swimmer age 45 to 49 age group. Right now he's stuck at 128 for almost a year. So the stroke rate was actually the main thing we actually changed. So 6 weeks later, he's at 123. And that's not necessary just from fitness, because his fitness was already there, it was just not untapped. Now, if you want to go even further with drills like this, check out my full training resource in Ocean Swim School, link in the description down below. And now on the step 4 is the one that most people actually argue with me about the most. Step number 4, the breathing pattern. Now every time you breathe in 100 meters, you lose a fraction of a second. Head turns, hips will drop a bit, the rhythm breaks, and so on. Now do that 25 times in a race versus 12 times, and you've just added drag for no reason. Adult swimmers breathe to feel comfortable, and that makes complete sense in training. But in the 100 meters, comfort and speed are actually pulling you in the opposite direction. Most intermediate swimmers that I coach are taking anywhere between 25 to 30 breaths per 100 meters. A more deliberate pattern will sit around between 20 to 25. An even better one will sit around 15 to 20. Now I want you to think it this way. So think about opening a car window at highway speed. So you do a small action by opening the window, but then suddenly you got the drag that you actually don't need. Now every single turn to breathe is literally that window opening. Fewer turns, you're gonna have less drag and you're gonna carry more speed. Now don't get me wrong here, the fix is not to hold your breath, but it has to be intentional. So breathe every 5 strokes in the first 25 meters and maybe the last 15 meters. Every 3 maybe in the middle where your rhythm is actually settled, and that's a pattern and is not a punishment. Now on land, practice the head turn itself. Stand. You can stand sideways to a mirror if you're in your home. Head down, head in neutral. Now rotate to breathe. Your mouth just clears the water, the surface line, but one goggle stays submerged in the water. Now rotate back. Do this for about 10 times. Most swimmers that I work with over-rotate, and that's exactly where the hip drop actually comes from. The less head movement, the less disruption. In the water, swim 4 times 100 meters using that restricted breathing pattern. Give yourself about 2 to 3 sessions to actually adapt before you can judge it. Your body here will feel slightly uncomfortable at first, and by session 2 is usually what it actually starts to click. So swimmers who move to a deliberate breathing pattern typically gain between 0 to 1 second per 100 meters. Now this feels like a small number until you've tried everything else, and this is what we have left. And the last one, and honestly this is a step that most people skip because it feels uncomfortable to practice, which is exactly why it actually works. Step number 5, race-based training. And the reality is that you're training way too slow, and that's basically most of it, full stop. Now I see this constantly. Swimmers doing endless laps at comfortable cruise pace, and then they wonder why on the race day or in training it feels impossible to go faster than they were 2 months ago or 6 months ago. Basically, your body adapts to what you're actually doing in training. So for example, if you train at 145 per 100 meters, your body learns that 145. And then you show up on the race day and then you ask yourself, why can you go 115 pace? But your body generally doesn't know how. Now the reality that this happens is because race pace actually hurts. So in training, people actually back off to a comfortable zone. And that's totally understandable, don't get it wrong. But the reality is that that zone does not prepare you for 100 meters, where you're actually working at 90% from the very first stroke. And if you do triathlons or Ironmans and so on, for you to be able to maintain that 100-meter pace, it actually takes a good amount of effort. It's like only ever practicing free throws at half speed and then expecting to nail under the game pressure. The mechanics feels familiar, but the intensity is completely different because your body has never actually been there. So once a week, train exactly at that goal pace. Not faster, not slower. That specific pace you actually want to race at. So a simple set structure can be 8 50 meters at your goal pace of a 100-meter split. Now if you want to swim at 120, now each 50 should be at least 45 seconds or under. Rest for another 30 to 45 seconds tops between each, and that's it. Simple, uncomfortable, but it works. A triathlete that I coached last year added one of these sessions per week on his training block. He went from 135 to 127 in 8 weeks. He told me that the race pace actually felt familiar for the first time. Familiar, and yeah, that's exactly what it should feel. Familiar is actually the goal. So the race pace actually should feel like something you've done it before. Now here's what actually 5 seconds actually mean. And by 5 seconds, I think is the minimum. And you can progress further than that, 20, 30 or whatever. It means that the clock finally starts moving in the direction that you want, because I assume that you don't want to regress, right? You want to progress. It means that the training you've been doing starts actually showing up in your times, because I watched this exact progression play out hundreds or even thousands of times before. Swimmers get stuck the same time for a year, for 2 to 3 or even more than that. We fix the wall, we fix the underwater, the stroke rate, the breathing pattern, and then add one race pace session per week. Within 3 to 4 weeks, practicing 2 to 3 times per week, 45-minute session to an hour, time will drop. A master swimmer in his early 50s dropped 7 seconds in 6 weeks using this exact framework. And look, this might be different for you, and I could be wrong, but I think most people are actually faster than the current times actually suggest, because the technique is just getting on your way. Now, if you want me to actually watch your stroke and tell you which one of these 5 things is actually costing you the most, join Ocean Swim School, free to start, community access, ask any questions and see if it's useful, link in the description. Drop a comment if you're actually going to work on any of these and tell me which one actually hit the hardest. I try to read every single comment and I make my videos based on your comments. And if this video helped you, hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell and so on. See you in the water.